and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, all protocols observed. Thank you for coming on time. I think some of you have been here more than 20 minutes. So I really do appreciate the interest in this very important topic. So I would like us to start exactly on time because we have quite a lot we want to discuss. But we think the difference between this session and a number of sessions that we've had, especially in Stream A, is now we're zooming into very specifics. So we discussed quite a bit on systems and national systems and concepts, capacity development concepts. And now we are asking how the UN system as being part of the development partners in different countries. So how can we continue to support these national systems? So that's the topic of our session today. And what we have done is we put together a panel of colleagues that will share, a number of them will share more generally how the systems look in the country. So that allows us then to discuss how we can continue to support those. And then we'll have a specific case on one way that we can support. That's from Benin. So thanks again for attending. I have a very, we put together a very esteemed panel of 5 countries. But the basis of this session, when we're thinking about what we wanted to share, is actually some work that the United Nations Evaluation Group did last year to reflect on our experiences. And so we'll start with discussing that. So on my right here, we have Valentina, who is a member of the UN UNEC NECD working group, which I'm a member as well from UNICEF. So she'll give us a brief on that work, that reflection from the UN. And then we have Stephanie from Kenya. So she'll give us a bit of brief reflections on the systems in Kenya within the department that she works in. And then we'll have a bit of discussions on the experiences working with development partners. And then we have Tamir from Ethiopia. So he's going to share a little bit on the systems there and the work they have done with a number of development partners as well. Then we have Haranman from Gabon. You will share also as well, working with partners. And then at the end, we have our brother from Benin. You share a specific case. So once we go through that, and sorry. So that's a panel. And I didn't say my name is Grace. I work with the World Food Program based in Rome. So this is the country where I work. So you're all welcome. Yes, I forgot. So just to prepare you to engage with the session. So we have 3 questions, but the panelists will speak to the first 2. But those of you that are from countries and also development partners or other actors, think about those questions as well, so that at the end of the intervention, you can speak to them. So the first question that each of them will speak about is give us a bit of a sense of how the systems are in their countries or with the ministries that they work in. And then they give us a sense of how they have worked with development partners. That's after Valentina has given us some brief on the report that I just mentioned. And then we'll have a bit of discussion on what more can be done. So what more can we do? What do we see as challenges for us to do that? And how can those challenges be overcome? So quite a lot that we need to cover. And for us to do that, we'll be very tight on time. So I'm going to ask my panelists to make sure they stick to the time. So Valentina will get 10 minutes, share with us the UNEC report, which is based on our review of what has happened since 2014 UN resolution. And then the other colleagues will speak for 10 minutes. And then we shall remain with the remaining time. We will discuss the last question. And then we'll ask you colleagues from other countries to also share your experiences. So with that introduction, I'll turn to Valentina to share briefly about our report, UNEC report. And you have copies. Our colleagues are giving you brief copies of this report. So over to you, Valentina.
Thank you, Grace, and thank you, colleagues, for being here. So Grace said quite a few things about this report, so it will, my presentation hopefully will be even shorter. So, the UNEG, so the United Nations Evaluation Group, tasked one of its group, which is the National Evaluation Capacity Development Technical Working Group, to have a reflection about a 2014 resolution, which is the first one about evaluation capacities. So since 2014, the General Assembly committed to support to support countries who might request UN support to strengthen further the capacity of their capacity, in fact, for evaluation. So last year, the group embarked in this work and reflect what happened since then, right? So the UNEG, if you want, I can elaborate a little bit more about it, but it's again, is a United Nations Evaluation Groups, has around 50 members, and it's centered around evaluation. So the background of the report precisely was, so there was this reflection about a new resolution about evaluation, but first of all, to reflect on what had happened since 2014. So this is a case study of six countries, and Ian Goldman, who some of you might know and might have seen around in those days, is the one who led the report. Very briefly, I want to focus only on the lessons and on the recommendations of this report, and you can have more details if you wish. So I can try to respond, or Grace. But the main lesson is that, again, as we have heard that already in those couple of days of conference, evaluation are mostly commissioned by donors, right? And there is little ownership from the government of the countries who are subject to evaluation, or object more often, right, instead of subject. And then there is the understanding, or the lesson or finding is also that there is possibility or capacity in the system to get together and to support the strengthening capacities in countries. And then the other reflection is that it might need space and time, but the possibility is there. And I think this conference and the Global Evaluation Initiative are examples in this direction. Again, linked to the before, the national evaluation capacity development or strengthening is a long process which need commitment. And it's important to support that enabling environment at both institutional and individual level. So again, I think this conference is an example, or an attempt in a sense, right? Because it helps to reflect on the systems, but also in improving or increasing the capacity of the individuals working on evaluation. Another lesson is that we like to demonstrate evaluation potential with government partners. The evaluation should start earlier and sometimes should be taken in introducing the evaluation, in gathering the stakeholders. This is something else we have heard a lot in those couple of days, to mobilize the stakeholders to buy in the evaluation effort, the process, and eventually product and recommendation. And then another lesson or finding is that the United Nations system or operation might be fragmented, and there are barriers in collaboration, but there should be a commitment to overcome this. And again, I think this effort of national relation capacity, it's also to give a bigger ownership to the national institutions to lead and to gather the UN together, to work together and support the national capacity development as a system. So I don't know if you have had the same reflection, but we still tend to hear about what the different agencies are doing, right? But when we zoom in a country, so when we talk about strengthening capacity, we really need to have the opposite perspective, right? Not what the organizations are doing, but what the country needs, what the country is doing, and how the different actors can support the national effort. So very quickly, there are three main recommendations of this report. So the first recommendation is that all UN agencies should conduct their evaluation in a way to foster national capacity development. And each recommendation has sub-recommendations. You can see those in the report. You have the link in the paper, but you will find the link at the end of the presentation as well. So, and again, so there might be different ways of doing it, but we start from those conferences and the effort to support capacity building in each country. And I hope the colleagues will share with us a little bit what's happening in different countries. The second recommendation is that, oh my God, I cannot read and I cannot remember. Sorry. So number 2 is, the United Nations agencies and their evaluation functions should continue to support the capacity development of national evaluation ecosystems, including support to the enabling environment, institutional and individual capacity. So it was touched upon a little bit before. So this often as UN, we are a little bit inward looking. We focus on what we have to evaluate of our programs, but in fact, more and more we are called to go outside and to work with the sister agencies to support, in fact, in individual capacity, but also institutional capacities and the environment for evaluation in the country. And the third recommendation is that all UN agencies precisely should coordinate and collaborate on national evaluation capacity development at corporate, regional, and country level, allocating adequate time and resources. And this, so I'm presenting this report as a member of the National Evaluation Capacity Development Working Group, but I'm also based in a country office. I work at UNICEF Ethiopia. So this is really what the exercise I'm trying to do in allocating my resources between what I have to do inside my organization and comply with the evaluation policies that UNICEF has, but also allocate my time and the time of my team and resources to support the national system. And this is the theory of change. I'm not sure how much you can see it from there, but it's about a reflection that the National Evaluation Development Working Group tried to do on a theory of change about what are the inputs that the technical working group can provide into the system. And it's mainly conferences, trainings, some budget allocated, etc., up to the impact that we want to have, which is make sure, progressively to support countries to develop their policies, their guidelines, to structure the evaluation system, to ask from the public and the private sector to ask for evaluation, to use the evaluation results for better policy decision making, and eventually deliver better programs for the citizens. In fact, we are trying to support, and in this we are together, I believe, the government of countries, the civil society, the academia, and the UN. So the objective is to deliver better program, better policies for the improvement of conditions of citizens in the country. And then you can find the link once you get the presentation, and that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valentina. If you can switch off the mic.
Sorry.
Yes. So as I mentioned before, this report was to look at what has happened since 2014, when the UN General Assembly passed a resolution on supporting national evaluation capacities. And so if I was to summarize, and for you to, if you were to summarize in 3 sentences, is when a UN agency in your country or as a collective does their own evaluations, they should do it in a way that they support the national systems, even if it's an evaluation of a UN program. That's the first key message. The second message is supporting directly the national systems, capacities, and policies. And the third message is supporting country-led evaluations, all commissioning joint evaluations with national institutions. So those are the 3 messages. So we will hear on each of those. So Stephanie will share generally on the second element, so supporting national systems. And then at the end, Benin will share on the last one, supporting joint evaluations. But just one word on country-led evaluations. Maybe some of you know already, or if you don't, there's been efforts to have a new resolution on country-led evaluations as one very specific ways in which the system, development partners, and actors can engage. So that conversation is going on, and hopefully we are hoping to see some progress on that. But this is an area that as the clearer we are on how the system, the UN system, can support within countries, the better it is that we can have results. The last point I wanted to mention before I introduce Stephanie is we need to attack the problem from different angles. So there's an enabling environment, the policies, the systems, but there's institutional capacities, individual capacities. So for us to make a dent on the systems, we have to attack from different angles and different people trying to support from different perspectives, individuals, institutions, and enabling environment and systems. So with that, Stephanie will share with us 10 minutes about the Kenya system and experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace, and colleagues. Good morning, everyone. Let me first acknowledge that we have in this audience colleagues from the National Treasury and Planning, basically those who manage the National Monitoring and Evaluation System. So I'm not going to speak to that. I'm going to speak to very specifically my own sector. I work in the sector of social protection, and just to see how we then link up with the National Treasury. So I would acknowledge, therefore, that we have the planning unit housed at the National Treasury and Planning, and they have deployed planning units in the various ministries, the various state departments. And what we have noted ourselves is that with this deployment, there is probably much more focus on monitoring from the planning unit than we focus on evaluations. So because of that, we felt as a State Department that we have left out the aspect of evaluation for ourselves in terms of social protection. So that sort of led us to think about we need to establish our own M&E system. And for me, I think the point is that it will allow us in the longer term also to be able to link with the national system so that they can be able to get, much more evidence from our own sector. So it's because within that particular background that in our national policy for social protection, it was very clearly recommended as a statement, a policy statement, that we need to establish an M&E framework for ourselves at the State Department. And further, of course, we've undertaken what we would consider as some form of evaluation, but this is a review report for the sector. So we've had two social protection sector review reports, just basically to tell us what is in the sector, what is happening across the different implementers of the social protection sector, because we have so many interventions that are cutting across many agencies, both public, private, international NGOs, donors, who are providing social protection benefits and services. So the social protection sector review report, one, which was done in 2011, was able to guide us in terms of what then we want to focus on as a policy. So the policy that came out in 2011 policy, but was really adopted in 2012, was able to reflect on what the social protection sector review report presented, and therefore recommended that we need to have an M&E framework that would help us then be able to track the results of our policy as social protection. And it is within this line then that we were able to start engaging with our donor partners, and more specifically the UN agencies, and sit together to form a working group. Also, we have the UNDA framework where we're able to sit together with the UN agencies and other partners such as the World Bank. And from this, then we are able to discuss commonly or mutually a work plan. And within this work plan, we're able to identify what are our priority areas, what areas can we collaborate in, and is it in the establishment of systems or even undertaking evaluations of the different aspects that the policy was bringing out. So with the guidance of the policy and the establishment of the UNDAF Child and Social Protection platform in the country, then we've been able to continuously hold what we call work planning meetings annually, and we meet every other month. But of course, the beginning of each year, we sit together and share the work plans, and we identify areas of collaboration and support that we would want the UN agencies to work with us on. And on that basis, I think one of the first UNDAF meetings that we held is where the UNICEF identified an area, I guess, which was also in line with what they do, and they intended to support establishment of an M&D framework for the social protection sector in Kenya. And so with the support of UNICEF, we were able to get technical assistance, and they specifically got us an individual to work with us for a period of 3 years to support putting in place the M&D framework, and therefore start off rolling off that framework and implementation of that particular framework. So we, again, in terms of these consultations or continuous consultations with the bank and the UNICEF and the World Food Program, we then try to see ways of trying to automate the M&D framework. So automating the monitoring framework so that at the end of the day, if we are going to look at data over the years to inform our different evaluations, then this was going to be much easier. So within that particular technical assistance from the UNICEF, we also got technical assistance from WFP to support a management information system that would also capture, sort of have a dashboard on M&D. And we have that dashboard already established under the management information system. And our intention was then to work with stakeholders to develop the tools, which the technical assistance from UNICEF was able to support us to do, work with the different stakeholders implementing social protection interventions, and develop tools to collect key information given various indicators. And we had a range of consultative meetings with the different stakeholders, of course, key stakeholders in the social protection sector, to be able to develop tools on agreed indicators. And obviously, those indicators are all aligned to what our policy defines as social protection in the country. So it cuts across from social assistance, social security, and social health protection. So within those specific indicators, then we've been able to have those tools developed. Our issue now is to try and get stakeholders to be able to utilize and report using those particular tools. And that is where our biggest challenge is, that we can't be able to bring stakeholders to utilize the tools to report on interventions for social protection. So for us, it's a long journey, and we would want to continue in that particular space so that we can be able to then slowly bring them on board. And we were thinking that automating this particular process would make it much more easier for stakeholders to be able to report on their different activities from the comfort of their own environments, because then there are different agencies, whether they're private or public. So using that particular M&D framework that we have been able to develop together with the support of the partners, we have been able to roll off at least one evaluation, and one evaluation that was focusing itself on the older person's cash transfer. That is for the social assistance program, because we provide cash transfers to older persons above 65 years old initially, but now we've made it it's a social pension now. So we are providing cash transfers to those above 70 years old. So we've been able to undertake an evaluation on that particular cash transfer program. And our hope is that those results from that evaluation can inform how we improve the program as we go forward. I think I would want to stop there so that we can be able to clarify any other issues that come through. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, and thank you for acknowledging your colleagues from the Central M&D Department. I see a strong delegation here, so I hope that at some point at the end, they can also have their reflections. So we will hear, so that's Kenya, the system for department. We'll hear from Mr. Tamir from Ethiopia on the systems, and then you reflect on the questions as well, and then you can share your reflections at the end.
Good morning, everyone. I am Tamiru Tarafa. I was working for the last 20 years on MND and something like that. And now I am a senior MND advisor as Ministry of Planning and Development. So my presentation just constitutes the national MND system, challenge, major interventions and way forward. So regarding the MND, so when we are talking about MND system, it stands on the planning. The planning system stands on the constitution that the federal government is responsible in preparing the national plan, and that is vertically coherent and horizontally consistent plan. So national development plans are also important to integrate and mainstream the global and regional goals. So so as far as we think that there is a one plan and one report system to serve all stakeholders interests in development process, because parallel systems are always costly and sometimes disarray activities. So this is what the one we are doing. So we regarding the planning system, we have started in 1957, and now we are in the 10-year development plan. So regarding the data flow, these are the diagram. Actually, it is impossible to say with short period of time, but there is framework guidelines from the top to down, and there are also stakeholders involved at every steps, and data flow from bottom up for the monitoring and evaluation. This is one thing, but we are also in digitalizing our monitoring systems. We have a very good digital monitoring and reporting system that receiving reports from sector ministries. And also stakeholders. So there are universities, farmers, pastoral youth and women, private sector, civil society organizations, and also development partners, others, AU, IGAD, COMESA, and DEPAD are also the stakeholders in development process. In this way, Ministry of Planning and Development is a coordinating institution that coordinates and organizes consultative forums, preparing and submitting MN results, and building the national MN system. So we are now in that way, sector ministries monitoring and evaluating their respective sector plans, reporting to various government bodies, generating and using administrative data are just conducted. The Ethiopian Statistics Service, ESS, an abbreviation, producing census and survey data, ensuring the quality of data and disseminating data for use in development planning and policies. So this is an example for Ethiopia's mainstreaming SDGs in the recent 10-year development plan. So once we are monitoring and evaluating the 10-year development plan, indirectly we are planning, monitoring the SDGs and also AU Agenda 2063. So that is why I am speaking about a one plan, one reporting system. So some of the results from monitoring reporting system are just MN system enables to monitor and evaluate the performance of national development plan. The national MN system exercise fairly in participatory, transparent manner that involves donors, CSOs, and private sector. Annual progress reports are there, consultation are there and were there and still are there. Achievements are made officials through various channels, media websites, and other things. Also, especially we prepared the second voluntary national review on SDGs and presented in July in New York. So there are also poverty analysis and human development reports have also been prepared to assess the impact of growth on poverty reduction and human development. So major challenges, there are challenges as any country happen, but let me pick some of them. For example, gaps in national capacity, misconception about MND, negative mindsets, and particularly on result-based monitoring the evaluation system, weak capacity and appetite in relation to rigorous evaluation, focus only on monitoring. Even sometimes monitoring is very difficult. Challenges related to quality and consistency of MND data, and challenges related to effective dissemination and using MND results. So what we did as major interventions, there are a series of MND capacity gap assessment with our development stakeholders, the Africa Development Bank, USAID, UNDP, World Bank, and so on. And also Ethiopia has developed MND guideline that guides to strengthen the MND system, for example, and as a result, we try to prepare KR and KPI documents, a document that comprises key result area and key performance indicator and we are using for the 10-year development plan preparation, master reporting format to bring every sectors to one, and digital monitoring reporting system and capacity units of sector ministries. So Ministry of Planning and in collaboration of UNICEF has also conducted a national evaluation capacity readiness assessment and national evaluation capacity development plan. This is thanks for UNICEF for that, and it has a good result to do and guide us. And based on the assessment, there is a more or less a shared understanding of how evaluation can be contributed to the 10-year development plan and the SDG achievement. The way forward, so the way forward in that comprises as per the question, making MND prominent political priority and boost demand and intensive use of MND information at all levels of the government, working closely with various stakeholders. There are many various stakeholders, private sector, NGOs, and UN organizations, implement the capacity development plan suggested during NEC assessment in collaboration of UNICEF, and further strengthen the partnership with donor and agencies for collaboration in evaluations, capacity development training, and cash disbursement. Sometimes cash could be important to for procurement of consultants and others. So thank you for the listening. This is all of my presentation, and we'll elaborate during questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tamil. A very exhaustive presentation within a very short time. So you could see there's quite a lot of information. So you'll get the PowerPoints to see the details of the system in Ethiopia. And you can see they're mentioning the partners they have worked with. And that's what we want to discuss in this session. So how the government institutions work with their partners on very specific issues to strengthen the systems. So with that, I will invite our colleague and brother from Gabon, Mr. Harman, to give us some brief on Gabon and the systems and how they're working. He will speak in French, so you'll need your earphones for translation. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Grâce. En français, on dit Grâce. Hein? Alors, du coup, je vais m'exprimer en français. Je tiens dans un premier temps à exprimer ma gratitude au PNUD, aux organisateurs de cet événement qui ont bien voulu associer le Gabon à cet exercice, qui est non seulement opportun, mais aussi important pour nous. Donc, je suis Herman Maïssa, comme elle l'a dit, la modératrice. Je travaille au cabinet du Premier ministre du gouvernement gabonais. Je suis conseiller du Premier ministre et en même temps, je suis directeur de suivi et d'évaluation des politiques publiques. Alors, la direction a été créée avec pour ambition de démarrer le processus d'évaluation au Gabon. Je vais passer la présentation du Gabon. J'imagine que chacun pourra trouver les informations sur Internet. C'est un petit pays qui est en Afrique équatoriale, qui parle en langue officielle le français, qui a une cinquantaine de langues locales. La population, c'est à environ 2 millions d'habitants. Ce n'est pas très grand. Voilà, mais vous pourrez trouver un complément d'information sur Internet pour ceux qui sont intéressés. Alors, le Gabon a mis en place en 2012 un plan de développement stratégique, ce qu'on appelait le plan stratégique Gabon émergent à horizon 2025. Le mode de financement économique du plan stratégique était le pétrole, la production pétrolière. Et il se trouve qu'en 2014, on a eu un choc pétrolier qui a modifié l'ambition du Gabon de développer son plan pour l'émergence à horizon 2025. Et là, nous avons mis en place un nouveau plan, le plan de relance de l'économie entre 2017 et 2019 que nous avons également déployé avec l'appui des partenaires financiers. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes sur un nouveau plan, le plan de relance de l'économie entre 2021 et 2023. Chacun des 2 premiers plans ont fait l'objet de suivi et évaluation, mais pas d'évaluation. Nous avons une pratique évaluative, mais nous manquons des évaluations. Alors, un cadre institutionnel a donc été mis en place au niveau de la Constitution qui vise à répondre à la pratique des évaluations par le gouvernement, par le Parlement, par la Cour des comptes. Et au niveau du cabinet du Premier ministre, à partir de 2019, en juin 2019, la direction a été créée avec pour objectif de mener les évaluations. Au niveau du ministère de l'économie, il existe une direction, la direction générale de la prospective, qui a l'ambition de mener également les évaluations. Nous avons également un ministère qui est chargé de mener les évaluations sur le plan institutionnel, le ministère de la bonne gouvernance, de la lutte contre la corruption et de l'évaluation des politiques publiques. Alors, le gouvernement gabonais a pris un texte qui a visé à institutionnaliser l'évaluation par un exercice que nous faisons chaque année, qu'on appelle la Journée nationale de l'évaluation. La vocation de cette journée est de réunir les partenaires pour ensemble réfléchir sur une stratégie à développer de manière à permettre la vulgarisation de l'évaluation. Elle est organisée généralement, elle est organisée avec l'appui de la Banque mondiale, de l'UNICEF, du PNUD, qui sont des partenaires privilégiés du Gabon dans la conduite de ces exercices-là. On est également appuyé par le CLIR pour la zone Afrique francophone, le CLIRFA. Donc, depuis 2015, il se tient régulièrement chaque année cette journée d'évaluation. Cette rencontre vise donc à donner au gouvernement d'asseoir progressivement les fondements de l'évaluation et de diffuser la culture évaluative, n'est-ce pas, au sein de l'administration. La journée d'évaluation regroupe les parlementaires, les magistrats, les représentants des collectivités locales, les ONG, la société civile. Alors, la particularité de la 5e journée qui a eu lieu en 2021 est que nous sommes sortis avec 3 recommandations principales. La première consiste à élaborer une politique nationale d'évaluation. La deuxième consiste à mettre en place un dispositif central de coordination des acteurs institutionnels. La troisième recommandation consiste à renforcer les capacités des acteurs institutionnelle des évaluations. Alors, un premier point a été déjà validé. Nous avons mis en place une commission pour l'élaboration de la politique nationale d'évaluation. Cette commission est articulée autour des différentes parties prenantes. Le gouvernement, le Parlement, les ONG. L'UNICEF, le PNUD et CLIRFA accompagnent le processus de déploiement de lancement des évaluations au Gabon. Et dans leurs activités, au cas particulier de l'UNICEF, l'UNICEF a conduit en 2019 un état des lieux, une étude, pour pouvoir faire l'état des lieux, bien sûr, de l'évaluation au Gabon. Cette étude a permis de mettre en évidence les forces et les faiblesses. Puis elle a fait, évidemment, des recommandations pour une institutionnalisation intégrée de l'évaluation des politiques publiques au Gabon. Donc, l'appui à l'organisation des journées nationales d'évaluation également est un facteur qui est jugé positif déjà au niveau national, parce que nous sommes accompagnés, bien sûr, comme je disais tout à l'heure, non seulement par la Banque mondiale, mais aussi par l'UNICEF, par le PNUD et l'appui technique de CLIRFA. Avec CLIRFA également, le gouvernement, les acteurs institutionnels ont également pu bénéficier d'un renforcement des capacités pour construire une compréhension commune, pour permettre de construire une compréhension commune, n'est-ce pas, de l'évaluation et doter les acteurs des outils nécessaires pour pouvoir accomplir ces exercices-là. Alors, j'ai bien envie de m'arrêter là pour pouvoir déjà permettre à Grace de nous donner l'opportunité d'ouvrir les discussions de manière à apporter un peu plus d'amples explications, plus d'amples informations sur ce que nous faisons au Gabon. Merci beaucoup. Merci, Grace.
Merci, Mr. Haman. That's the only French I know. I know a few other words, but yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Harman. And finally, we hear from Mr. Elise from Benin on a specific case of support from development partner on an evaluation. 10 minutes, Mr. Elise.
Merci beaucoup. Mon nom, c'est Oussou Élisée. Je suis un gestionnaire des services publics. Je suis de l'administration. Je travaille au ministère des enseignements maternels et primaires. Je suis responsable des cantines scolaires au Bénin. Alors, bon, je viens du Bénin. Le Bénin est un petit pays qui n'a pas assez de ressources minières, mais très riche par son histoire et sa culture. C'est le pays des Amazones et je profite de cette occasion pour remercier les femmes braves de cette initiative qui sont ici, qui se battent pour la réussite de cet important événement. Alors, le Bénin a une culture d'évaluation qui date de très longtemps, parce que avec les mutations économiques et les différentes réformes, le Bénin s'est engagé dans la gestion axée sur les résultats, où le suivi et évaluation devient un levier très important, pouvant lui permettre d'atteindre une performance souhaitée. Alors, moi, je serai très pratique. Le cadre qui me concerne, c'est l'expérience faite avec le programme alimentaire mondial dans la mise en œuvre de l'accord de partenariat entre le gouvernement du Bénin et le programme alimentaire mondial. Alors, j'ai participé à l'évaluation conjointe décentralisée à mi-parcours du Programme national d'alimentation scolaire intégré et également l'évaluation finale de ce programme. Alors, ce programme, c'est un programme mis en œuvre par le Programme alimentaire mondial. C'est un programme du gouvernement qui consiste à servir un repas chaud à midi aux enfants. Et c'est un programme qui a démarré en 2016. Alors, on peut passer en ce qui concerne la présentation du Bénin, puisque j'ai déjà donné le Bénin, j'ai déjà présenté le Bénin comme étant un pays qui se situe à l'Afrique de l'Ouest avec les pays limitrophes au nord avec le Burkina, le Nigeria, au sud avec l'océan Atlantique, à l'est par le Nigeria, à l'ouest par le Togo. Donc, pour gérer le temps, puisque nous n'avons pas assez de temps, je me situe directement dans le vif du sujet en disant que ce qui me concerne ici, c'est la collaboration avec le Programme alimentaire mondial dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre du Programme national d'alimentation scolaire intégré. Alors, dans ce programme, il y a un système de suivi qui est mis en place. Ce système de suivi a permis au programme d'évoluer et nous avons pu obtenir de très bels résultats. Ça nous a permis également de passer de taux de couverture de 30% au départ en 2016 et ce taux a évolué. Alors, comment nous sommes procédés pour pouvoir arriver à réussir ce programme? C'est que il y a un comité quadripartite de fonctionnement. Et vous voyez ici, devant, vous avez un dispositif central constitué de la cellule de la présidence. Il y a le ministère qui s'occupe de ce programme. Nous avons le ministère du développement et chargé de la coordination de l'action gouvernementale. Et nous avons également l'équipe du Programme alimentaire mondial chargée de la mise en œuvre de ce programme. Et ce comité quadripartite se réunit périodiquement pour étudier, échanger sur la mise en œuvre de ce programme, de telle sorte que quand nous identifions les problèmes, nous arrivons à trouver rapidement ensemble les solutions aux problèmes et les éléments, les problèmes qui dépassent l'exécution très rapide de certaines difficultés sont immédiatement remontées à l'instance supérieure et des décisions sont immédiatement prises. Si bien que dès qu'on organise les évaluations par rapport aux évaluations à mi-parcours, je donne l'expérience de cette évaluation, c'est que les recommandations sont aussitôt déclinées en actions et ces actions sont assorties d'une périodicité, si bien qu'il y a un tableau de bord qui est élaboré et le gouvernement donne son quitus par rapport à la mise en œuvre de ces actions avec un délai bien précis. Et vous voyez au tableau, vous allez voir l'évolution de ce programme. Au début, nous sommes en 2017-2018, nous sommes partis d'un taux de couverture de 30% à raison de 2199 écoles. Puis nous avons évolué à 51% de 2019 à 2020 avec près de 3850. Et après, nous sommes arrivés à un taux de couverture de 115% à près de 5532 écoles. Aujourd'hui, le gouvernement est dans la dynamique d'aller à un taux de couverture de 100%. Donc, et pour dire que nous travaillons en collaboration avec le PAM, mais il y a aussi d'autres partenaires qui interviennent dans ce dispositif. Nous avons le Catholique Relief Service, nous avons d'autres partenaires éducaux qui essayent d'intervenir dans d'autres domaines en termes d'eau, en termes de renforcement de capacité pour que nous puissions bien conduire ce programme. Alors, je dirais que nous, dans la mise en œuvre de ce programme, nous avons beaucoup de défis et nous pouvons aussi également tirer des leçons. Donc, le défi majeur que nous avons, c'est comment rester ensemble pour définir ou assurer la durabilité de ce programme. Et actuellement, je peux dire qu'avec le concours du Programme alimentaire mondial, des autres partenaires, le Bénin est en train d'élaborer une loi sur le modèle d'alimentation scolaire qui sera introduite au niveau de la représentation nationale pour pouvoir baliser le terrain et consolider les acquis. Nous avons également le problème de la durabilité du cadre institutionnel de pilotage qui réunit tous les acteurs intervenant dans ce domaine, le gouvernement, les partenaires, pour que de manière permanente, nous puissions trouver des solutions pour pouvoir agir efficacement sur le terrain. Et il faut aussi dire que ce que je retiens dans ce cadre conjoint de mise en œuvre de ce programme, c'est que c'est la flexibilité, c'est l'écoute des deux parties. Parce que ce soit à travers les évaluations à mi-parcours, les évaluations finales et toutes les autres évaluations que nous faisons au quotidien pour remonter les informations, la flexibilité, l'écoute, la disponibilité de tous les parties ont permis de capitaliser et d'agir efficacement. Ça a été d'une grande utilité lorsque le Bénin était face à la gestion de la pandémie de COVID. Nous avons chaque partenaire, chaque partie avait sa position, mais l'objectif du gouvernement, c'était de tenir dans le temps et de ne pas fermer les écoles. Nous avons fait des propositions, les partenaires également ont fait des propositions. Ça nous a permis non seulement de nourrir les enfants malgré la pandémie, avec le réaménagement du calendrier scolaire, nous n'avons pas fermé les classes, mais les élèves ont pu suivre leurs cours et nous avons pu tenir le calendrier scolaire avec des évaluations de fin d'année à bonne date. Donc, pour ne pas trop monopoliser la parole et laisser grâce à ouvrir le débat pour ceux qui veulent plus des informations pour pouvoir comprendre la collaboration avec le système des Nations Unies, avec les partenaires pour un bon système d'évaluation sur le terrain. Je vais m'en arrêter là et vous dire merci beaucoup et merci.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Mr. NEC. So I think we saved ourselves some good time to discuss. And so you've heard from the system level, the work they're doing in Kenya at the sector level, Ethiopia at the bigger system level, as well as Gabon, and then a very specific case of supporting a joint evaluation in Benin. So those are the different things that the system can attack. The UN system can support countries from different angles. And that's important to consider, because sometimes when we think about national evaluation systems, it's very, very easy to get overwhelmed because the systems are complicated. But if you think about the parts of the system, as long as you're aware of the other parts that the part you're trying to intervene affects, then you can have an impact by supporting a specific part, a specific sector, specific ways of doing things at the national level. So with that, open to your colleagues to reflect on that question. You can direct your specific questions to any of the panelists. You can also share your own experiences if you're coming from countries, and then we can have a discussion. I think we got some good time for that. Our colleague from India was in your session yesterday, so I got a sense of how the systems in India work, so we can start with you. Thank you.
Experience that we had in India. So just wanted to talk about a bit of experience that we had in India. We have been working with multiple development partners, but in some cases it was very good, the collaboration. In some cases not so good. With WFP it was pretty good, very good rather. And the reason that it works, so WFP worked with us in multiple things. It was like, the capacity assessment, it was M&E policy framework, it was in strategy paper, it was in, competency framework development, it was also in curriculum development, and then capacity building for the national and the subnational governments. So multiple kind of interventions, and where we also supported them in joint evaluation of one of their program. Okay, so what worked and why it worked was the reason we thought was that the first thing was that they were able to embed a person in the organization, and that really helped. So that person was present out there, and sometimes the organization tend to put out their worst person or some average person. Here the WFP really put out gave one of the most excellent staff. And what that made us enable that he was with us on a daily in and out basis. He knew the dynamics of the organization, that what were the priorities of the organization, which may be changing a little bit here and there. Second thing, it was just not one person. There was an alignment in goals and objective, right? There was a buy-in at the top level in the country office, and that really helped. In some, in one other sort of UN organization, there was only one person who was extremely committed, but the rest of that UN organization was not sort of, really involved. So these are certain things that have really helped embedding a person, and so that he can work with that particular organization. Because what happens in an organization generally is that organizations are over occupied with day-to-day activities and don't have time for certain long-term initiatives. M&E policy does require a slightly longer sort of term perspective, and these things which are slightly long-term tend to get left out. That's what sort of that's what made it quite successful.
Thank you very much. I think very good experience. Just want to alert you to, you must have received a card from our colleague. So what we did in the World Food Program the last 6 months, working with Clear Center in Johannesburg, we looked at all the things we've tried to do to support national systems in different countries. And using the theory of change that the Valentina presented, we said, what have we done in terms of diagnostics and mapping, technical assistance? So we did a 4-page report. That case of India is, I think, something that we could learn from, because that approach works because, one, it's long-term. Supporting systems is not something you walk in with a project of 3 months and you walk out. So we signed a 3-year partnership. Yeah. 3-year partnership with commitment on both the WFP side and the government side, that we have clear results that we want to achieve. So if you look at those reports, we have a brief on that. There are a few other countries as well.
Not only that, annual action plan was created, and which was reviewed every time. So, so there was a different kind of, plan altogether, definite plan out there, which was implemented.
Yeah. So good example to look at India in the card we gave. Gentleman from Kenya.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm Alois Ratemo from Kenya, National Treasury and Planning, M&A Directorate. Colleagues, thank you for the presentation. Madam Stephen, thank you so much. Let me also wish to confirm that partners have really supported our national integrated M&A system for the last 20 years. The UN family have been supporting us. We are also working with other colleagues under 20 initiative who have really supported us. The CREA in terms of capacity building, training our people to ensure that the system works. We want to acknowledge them and appreciate them, including even World Bank. Since the conference started, we have been talking about the policies. I want to confirm again that our policy was approved by Cabinet. we are in the process of developing an action plan. Now, Madam Farentina, I want to request you that once we've done the action plan, it's important partners support the implementation of that action plan. Because, you know, the policy, you have to implement it. What are the issues in the policy? Issues of resource mobilization, issues of capacity development. Those are the issues which we are requesting partners. Also, you continue supporting us such that the system works. Also, as a country, we prepared what we called the Kenya evaluation guidelines. We realized that the evaluation culture is also not where it's supposed to be, but through support of UNICEF, we have developed those guidelines to support, to enhance the evaluation culture. You remember in the morning we were saying that we should be speaking to our brothers of M, the monitoring. But we are saying that as a country after 20 years, it's important now we start focusing on the E part of it. But how do we go about it in terms of trying to enhance the culture? We've done those guidelines. Once again, I want also to appreciate that our colleagues from KRIA, again, they came in, they supported us to train the TOTs. As a country, we are in the process of rolling it out, such that these guidelines are used at the national level and at the sub-county, sub-country, sub-national level. Something else which I wish also to share with the colleagues is that as Gabon, we also hold national M&A conferences. In fact, early this year, we held the 10th one since we started. You know, we are talking about the issue of culture and practice. How do we promote the culture and practice? It's a platform like this, where people are sharing, we have got experts, we have got the political leaders who are sharing the experience. And this is where also we need also support from our partners so that you can be able to support the participation. We are talking about the youth's critical component in our population. These are the people we want also to see that they participate in these forums. Because when you talk about the culture, you know, also we want to use the youth so that the young people are really excited to push this agenda forward. As I conclude, I want also to confirm that we have done the National Evaluation Plan, and this evaluation plan has to be implemented. Therefore, once again, we are coming back to our partners so that you can support us on how we can be able to execute the plan. You know, we don't want the plan which is there, we tick that you have got the plan, but the plan is in the shelf, like Anna and other documents. I'm not speaking on behalf of Twendembele, but I'm a member of the Twendembele. As a country, Benin, you are a member of the Twendembele. Niger. What I want to reveal to you people is that we have got guidelines on how to develop the national M&A policies. Yesterday, somebody was asking the steps on how to go about it. I think it's important also you visit that website so that you can access on how to do it, because the way things are, for us to strengthen the M&A function, we must develop policies and start implementing them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace, for the excellent chairmanship. I'm Solomon from Ethiopia. I would like to complement the discussion and then forward a few questions for two of my sisters, Valentina and Stefani. I think in terms of looking at the contribution of development partners, I think the recommendations which come out from your assessment looks quite good. But for me, it's also very important to look at how we can incentivize the sector ministries or government agencies so that they know the importance of evaluations. In our case, for example, if as Tamir was presenting it in a good way, just the shift from a process or input-based monitoring to result-based monitoring was a very challenging issue when I was leading the M&D Bureau at the Ministry of Planning and Development as Director General. That was really the challenge, to convince sector ministries how they can monitor this result-based, implement this result-based monitoring and evaluation. So in this case, we are good in monitoring, we are good in performance monitoring, but the point, the challenge comes when we see how do we evaluate policies? Are we really evaluating policies? Are we really evaluating our mega projects, which are very big, even bigger than some programs? Are we really evaluating programs is the challenge. in Africa. I know the experience of Kenya, I know the experience of Uganda. I have been in Kigali, and then I know almost the experience of South Africa as well. Because in this case, when we look at just the region in general, and then my country in particular, we're not doing good in terms of evaluation. We have to accept and then start how we can really design just policy evaluations. So in this case, the contribution of development partners is very significant. One, they should come together and then they should support us in a very coordinated manner. Because I remember just when we do our first diagnosis back in 2014, that was the African Development Bank who supported us to conduct the diagnosis. And then after that, the bank left. And then just UNDP was here and there. And then now, thanks to Valentina and her colleagues, UNICEF came, and then we have conducted the NEC, as we saw it in the presentation. And then we have also got these action plans to build the capacity and then to do this policy and all other initiatives. So in this case, it's quite good to look at to what extent we can make contributions toward this incentivizing these government institutions so that they can conduct proper evaluations. Otherwise, just we'll do even policies. Policies by themselves are not a guarantee to conduct evaluations. We saw that. We have got these guidelines, but the implementation, if you look at the implementation of that guideline, that is more or less 50-50. You see? So in this case, what are really the incentives towards just promoting this evaluation in our sector, minister, or in our government is very critical. And I would like to hear from Valentina towards this, because I couldn't see the recommendation come out from your assessment. The coordination is there, the resources are there, and all these things are there, but I think evaluation should be incentivized. And then it should get also, as Tamru was saying, the political priority. It should be one of the priorities there. So, and then we have to convince our decision makers the importance of evaluation. That is one. And my question for Stephanie is that you're, focusing on social protection policy, but as far as I know, in our region, just you are one of the leading countries in terms of developing MND, national MND policies. Is that your focus, or yeah, just we have been discussing with my colleague here also. So looking at specific MND policies like, MND policies for social protection, and looking at the national MND policies, is there any consistency? Do you check consistency as well? Because for us, just, yeah, it's good to first come up with something national and then see the specificity of each sector and each policy. So in that regard, since you are focusing about the social protection policy, so you have that national policy, I know. Do you cross-check the consistencies across this one? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before Stephanie comes in, just wanted to make 2 points to follow up on your question, critical question on policy, national policy evaluations. The point number one is that's something we could learn from India. And I think one of the things that they have been working there is to support evaluation of some of the largest national interventions. So we've discussed a little bit of how they're trying to do that. It's complex, but I think it's doable. The partners have to be committed to work with the government institution. And then the second thing on incentives. I mentioned the resolution. So we had the old resolution, which was on supporting capacities. Now, there are efforts to have a resolution on supporting country-led evaluations so that the UN system is not just building capacities and wishing you well and say, okay, good luck, I hope you do your evaluation. It's actually supporting evaluation of national policies. And so with no resolutions in the UN, they can have a life of their own and they can be a catalyst. So we are really hoping that this gets through, because then we'll know as a system, not just building capacities, is supporting that the national institution can evaluate policies. I'm hopeful about that. So Stephanie, a question directed to you.
Well, thank you very much, and I acknowledge everything that has been spoken. And I think it's some of the issues that we deal with ourselves. Now, very specifically, the M&D framework that we developed was to help us monitor the entire of the social protection sector. And you'd realize that social protection is provided by many, many other agencies. So as much as possible, we try to align the indicators within the framework across the different sectors, because they lie in education, they lie in health services, they lie in the private sector has a lot of that. We do have agriculture subsidies, which we look at as social protection. So all these we try to align to be able to have a comprehensive report on the sector for social protection. Yeah.
Thank you. Megan, microphone to that end. And then there is a gentleman next there. Yeah, you start with the lady and then the gentleman.
Thank you, and thank you to the interpreters for allowing for the exchange amongst countries. That's great. I wanted to ask about the sort of the relationship between evaluators and governance systems. And when we talk about a national evaluation system, I think of this as being part of a well-functioning, well-governed, democratic governance system. So when you talk about, say, UNICEF or WFP, I think you're often referring to the evaluation experts within those entities, someone like Grace, right? But to what extent are you also getting support from sort of governance support projects, say with UNDP, where those are integrated into the broader governance support? I'd just be curious to hear about that, because I think sometimes it feels to me like evaluators have a very clear role, UNEG evaluators, as creating incentives for supporting learning by doing joint work. But the big heavy lifting on capacity development for national systems, I guess, is coming from other parts of the entities, no? So that's just a sort of question and a query to all of us. Maybe they also have a lot more money they can they can put into the support. And then I also just wanted to share that at the OECD this year, we've developed for the first time a legal recommendation on public policy evaluation. I think it's quite aligned with the proposed UN resolution. But the interesting thing there is that it's open for adherence from any country. So for example, Benin or Kenya, you could join this recommendation on public policy evaluation. And it allows for some sort of institutional strength and an alignment with international norms. So that's just something to share as an example. Thanks.
The gentleman, and then Gabon, I think the example is close to what you're discussing. It's upon by UNDP to set the systems. So maybe Halman can speak to that after Stephen.
So, thank you. So I'll just, I think there's a strength of national evaluation systems that we really need to pull out a little bit more. And this is picking up from the plenary this morning. So something the plenary said is that international organizations are resistant to change. And that goes for the evaluation units and the evaluation units that work on supporting national evaluation capacity development. There's a way that they can work and there's ways that they can't work. The strength of the national evaluation systems that I think you see consistently across the panel, and consistently within this conference, is the capability to engage interest groups from a variety of standpoints and to conduct monitoring and evaluation systems from the variety of those standpoints. And we saw that, for example, in the presentation from our colleague here from Ethiopia. And I think that's recognizing that strength, that you have that capability, you have that capacity, which is beyond that which international organizations can do. And as we talk about the change in evaluations that's needed to work from environmental systems, to work from human systems, that's what you offer. That's a capacity that they don't have. And so embrace that capacity and build upon it. Policies can get you partway there, but you already have this. So I think let's acknowledge that and acknowledge what international organizations can't do in their capacity development, because they don't have the incentives to work across interest groups the way you do.
Very good point. Halman, you want to respond to the extent to which you get support from governance? That was the question, the way you work with UNDP a little bit, like in 2 minutes. Then we can get more questions from the participants.
Merci, Grace. Alors, nous avons vécu une expérience avec l'UNICEF. En 2019, l'UNICEF a commandé un rapport d'état des lieux de l'évaluation au Gabon. Et le rapport a permis de révéler un certain nombre de difficultés, parmi lesquelles l'absence d'évaluateurs au Gabon, en fait, la formation, parmi lesquelles l'absence de coordination entre les institutions. Il y a un certain nombre de difficultés qui ont été révélées dans le rapport. Et aujourd'hui, en 2019, cette situation-là, en 2022, pardon, cette situation-là a évolué. C'est plus la même. Aujourd'hui, au Gabon, en réalité, on a besoin de refaire cet état des lieux pour le mettre à jour, faire une mise à jour. Mais une fois on a la mise à jour, en réalité, ce n'est pas suffisant, ce n'est pas assez. Il faut aller plus loin. Tout à l'heure, j'ai lu le rapport de Valentina, la synthèse, et j'ai été flatté de constater que ce qui est marqué là-dedans, c'est ce que nous attendons chez nous, en fait, aujourd'hui, que nous attendons du système des Nations Unies. Et le collègue, il a totalement raison en nous disant, en rappelant que les besoins, ils sont clairement identifiés, mais on a besoin de faire, nous, au niveau du Gabon, on a besoin de faire matcher, de faire rencontrer, pardon, cette attente, ce besoin, avec les compétences du système des Nations Unies, avec les capacités du système des Nations Unies. Nous, aujourd'hui, au niveau du Gabon, il y a une volonté politique. Je travaille, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, au cabinet du Premier ministre. Elle a demandé avec insistance que nous fassions les évaluations. Au niveau de la direction dont je suis le responsable, nous avons déjà élaboré un guide. Nous allons le finaliser assurément dans les jours à venir. Mais après, il faut faire les évaluations. Et ça, si on n'a pas les compétences, si on n'a pas les ressources, on aura du mal à faire les évaluations. Et c'est pour ça que nous, moi, au niveau de la direction du suivi d'évaluation des politiques publiques, j'ai besoin aujourd'hui de l'accompagnement, de l'appui technique, de l'appui multiforme d'ailleurs, du PNUD, de l'UNICEF, du système des Nations Unies, pour déjà commencer à faire les évaluations, commencer à apprendre en faisant. Pour qu'en en prenant, tout en faisant, nous puissions progressivement progresser vers l'amélioration, le renforcement de la qualité de nos dispositifs. On nous a dit qu'il faut avoir une organisation partagée. Et là, effectivement, le collègue de l'Inde a attiré notre attention de faire attention, de rester prudent. Ça a été mis. On a une commission qui a pour objectif de travailler sur la politique nationale de l'évaluation. Mais c'est des exercices que moi, je veux, au niveau de ma position, distinguer. La politique, c'est bien, ça vise à institutionnaliser, mais l'évaluation, c'est primordial. Et si on peut commencer à évaluer des programmes tels que la sécurité sociale au Gabon, la question de la santé au Gabon, on a démarré un programme au début des années 2010 qui vise à accompagner, appuyer, à assister les Gabonais dans les soins de santé. Certes, on a un avis sur ce que ça représente, mais en réalité, la vie n'est pas le reflet d'une évaluation. Un bilan, une pratique évaluative n'est pas une évaluation. Nous avons les pratiques évaluatives chez nous, on fait plein de bilans, on fait des revues, mais on a besoin en fait d'évaluer. On a besoin de savoir l'impact, l'effet de tout ça. Donc, c'est pour cela, pour nous, c'est pour moi vraiment l'occasion de dire, mais nous, on reste en attente de ce que peut être l'appui du système des Nations Unies. Merci, Grace.
Thank you very much. I'm conscious of time, and we wanted to have a final round with our panelists to answer the same question. So what else can be done? So I'll give each of you 2 minutes, starting with Valentina. One, what else can we do? What are the challenges? How can we overcome them? And then we take that as a key message, and then we keep the conversation. Valentina, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll try to be very ambitious to put together what Elise just said, the Stefan question, Solomon question addressed to me directly, and what's the name of the colleague again? Megan, yeah. So, Solomon, your question, what can be done, and the line on which Elise started, I don't think you should be waiting. So it's what Stefan just said. Do you really want to be the one on the waiting position, waiting for the system to support you, or you want to use your leverage and say, okay, as well as we have health working groups, education working groups in most countries, we create our own M&E working group. We sit on the driving seat, Elise as well, and we convene the partners and we ask them what we want instead of having a one-to-one conversation to all of them. We sit together, we try to create a system where the government or the leading agency leads and the partners try to support. Then ideally, it shouldn't be only the government, it should be civil society, it should be other actors, but we can discuss about it in Ethiopia. You know very well, I'm very open to this, and in other countries as well eventually. How incentivize? I think what we have learned in this conference is that in some countries, the office of prime minister or presidency, they are taking the lead on evaluation, right, strongly. In other countries, we are struggling in a sense. But to incentivize, I think, I want to use the word that we heard in the morning as well, learning. We can learn from evaluation. If we use evaluation to serve better programs, citizens, etc., it should be an incentive to evaluate more. And then, as the colleague from South Sudan said in the morning as well, it's a cycle, right? It's a learning. We identify some needs, we plan to respond to those needs, we monitor, so the conversation with the M, and at the end we evaluate, as well as we do it in universities, in schools, in many walk of life, right? It looks like evaluation is something strange or something new or whatever, while it is not. Like, you identify the need, you commit on something, at the end you evaluate. I think in a country like Ethiopia, maybe in Gabon as well, the learning component could be put up front, and the use of the evaluation, right? So, and we, by practice, as the example from Kenya, they started in a specific sector, and then, or at the same time, probably, the evaluation policy came, something that Grace said before. The system, the UN system, can support at different stages. The evaluation policy, okay, we can work on that, or we can support a school feeding program together, and from that learn and feed back in the system. But the system can only, the UN system can only support, and I agree with you, maybe we do too many assessments. Please tell us, don't do assessment anymore. Do something else, talk to us. Tell us if you have evidence, you don't need more evidence. Tell us and move to the next step and do something else. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentina. Stephanie?
Yeah, thank you very much. And for me, very quick ones, really, I think we need to leverage on technology, even for M&A systems. And so that we can be able to have good evidence or build good evidence. I know one of the challenges we faced in putting together our social protection sector review report was that the evidence was not there, the data was not right. So if we leverage on technology, I think we can be able to address this. And in line with that, we're trying to establish now people structures, structures that can prompt evaluations and monitoring at the levels, in the different, the subnational levels at the national level. So we've created structures which we are calling M&D committees at various levels. For me, I think that should be able to work well. And then we're also working towards establishing a knowledge management system that is digital as well as physical. So if you have time, you can actually be able to come and read something at the library, and you can check it online and stuff like that. We would like to talk about promoting linkages to higher level learning institutions. And for me, you're trying to look at practical solutions to make evaluation, something that now becomes, that we do, it becomes practice. So we link ourselves to the higher learning institutions and have the students pick these areas for research and stuff like that. I think it would mean a lot for evaluations in the country. And I would want to just briefly talk to the challenges I see, even as much as we're saying evaluation is an area that we need to work on. It has been mentioned, appreciation of evaluation and utilization of those results still remains, a really bad area that we need to work on. How best can we think about making sure that our policymakers can appreciate evaluations, including the national treasuries, because they fund resources, but they do not remember that they still need to fund something like evaluations. At what point can they start thinking about that seriously? Because it's a docket that is often held within the national treasuries. Capacity for undertaking evaluations. I think we cannot undersay that. That needs to be an area that we must work on. And then, of course, the monitoring. I loved that discussion in the morning about looking at the M bit of things, the monitoring, because that is the only way you can be able to build your evaluation. If you most organizations do not actually have an M&D frameworks, they don't. And you want to come and evaluate 5 years down the line, where are you going to get that information? So we need to look at how we are building those monitoring and evaluation frameworks within organizations, and how then they are able to help us support the evaluation process. I thank you very much on that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Stefan. Very good conclusion. So I don't think we need to do further summary. Tamil, your 2 minutes.
To conclude, sometimes using new things and new approaches is good, and sometimes resistance also good, because while we are talking about monitoring and evaluation, also we are talking about evaluation issues. Now, the capacity at monitoring also is very important because of lack of experienced human capitals at government institution because of various reasons, and turnovers is a problem in data management. So anyways, we have to work towards there, and we have to improve our partnership in the future. So we have to modernize our data management systems. That I'm going to say something apart, if I get your point.
Okay. Thank you. I think we stop there. Then Haman, you already spoke, so you have half a minute. Half a minute. You donate your half a minute to Elisa?
Je peux faire court également. C'est juste pour dire que nous, au niveau du Gabon, il y a une volonté. Au niveau du Gabon, il y a des personnes qui sont mobilisées pour pouvoir le faire. Il y a des disponibilités humaines. On a besoin désormais que le gouvernement ne reste pas dans son bureau, que le système des Nations Unies ne reste pas dans son bureau, mais plutôt que les deux entités multiplient les rencontres pour que les mécanismes de déploiement, de développement des évaluations puissent prendre forme. Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Finally, Elise.
Merci beaucoup, Grâce. Moi, je ne serai pas trop long. Vous savez, le cas du Bénin est un cas vraiment très particulier avec le système des Nations Unies, le programme alimentaire mondial. Et mon collègue du Gabon a évoqué la volonté politique. Mais moi, je pense que si nous avons pu obtenir de bons résultats, c'est la synergie d'action entre le gouvernement et les partenaires. Parce qu'avec cette synergie d'action, on vise les mêmes objectifs et chacun a la flexibilité à d'écoute par rapport aux propositions, aux approches. Et souvent, vous savez, quand l'autre partie fait ses propositions avec sa rigueur, et si vous n'avez pas cette ouverture d'esprit, si vous n'avez pas cet engagement, il est difficile de s'accorder. Et il faut dire que la rigueur des partenaires, souvent, on n'a pas cette humilité de s'approprier, tant bien même qu'on sait qu'en s'adonnant à ces rigueurs et en faisant un petit effort sur soi-même, on peut avoir de bons résultats. Le Bénin a accepté aller dans cette rigueur-là et c'est ça qui a payé. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes dans la dynamique de la création de plateformes où tous les acteurs interagissent. par rapport à ce programme, lorsqu'il y a un petit problème, un simple individu peut intervenir sur la plateforme et directement ça remonte à la présidence. Si bien qu'on peut rapidement corriger les insuffisances au fur et à mesure. Donc, et ça a été inspiré par les partenaires, tant bien même que nous-mêmes, nous sommes dans cette dynamique-là, tout ceci a permis d'asseoir et on regarde au fur et à mesure et on évalue les insuffisances de ces plateformes. Donc, le collègue a déjà dit, il faut mettre à profit la technologie et il faut profiter pour mettre à profit à fond les technologies sur tous les programmes. Le problème d'eau. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes en train de régler le problème d'eau au Bénin. D'ici 2023, tous les contrées auront d'eau potable. Et il y a un programme qui s'occupe de ça. Donc, s'il faut évoquer, il faut donner les exemples, nous allons citer beaucoup d'exemples, mais c'est une question de volonté, c'est une question d'humilité, c'est une question de collaboration et de synergie d'action. Je vous remercie.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So thank you, colleagues, for your patience. I hope that was helpful, but continue conversation. Find where you can intervene and find out where the piece of the system you're intervening, how it links with the other pieces. Enjoy your lunch.